49ers laying the hammer down. The Chicago Bears won a football game. Plenty more drama on the way. Food for thought. We're back for week 5. I'm the Luuch, Will Priester, Chief Justice 06. I know we got a lot to talk about today. What a weekend of action. How are you, buddy?
I'm good, man. I think this is going to be this might be one of our best shows of the year to date, because I think we caught a lot, and I do mean a lot of interesting things happen this week that I'm ready to just I'm ready to talk about this stuff this week. So I'm going to turn it back over to you to not get ahead of myself, but I'm very excited about this show.
Well, if we can go back, Bears Commanders.
Yeah, I want to start right there. Listen, so I genuinely expected the Commanders to win this game. The Bears defense has not been great, and they weren't great in this game. They were not. Like, it was a tale of two halves for the Commanders. The problem was they couldn't close the deal. The Bears were about to throw this game away at one point in the game by trying to get a little bit too conservative. Like, you saw them start to just run Justin Fields on quarterback sweeps and quarterback power. And part of that, I think, is because, Justin Herbert did leave the game. I understand that. But the Bears were getting a little bit too conservative, and we saw how march this team down twice and get some big scores. But they couldn't close the deal. They couldn't quite get there. And the Bears end up winning 40-20 in a game that was probably a little bit closer on paper than it was. DJ Moore catches a big touchdown pass late in this game when the score was maybe 33-ish, I guess, at some point. But so that's what happened. I think this one stings, I think, to me, for the Commanders, because it was looking like they were kind of taking some type of a step forward with Howell. I expected this offense to play better at home. Like, they were at home. They weren't in Chicago. And they just looked abysmal in the first half, Luke. Second half, it was like night and day. But by then, the game was out of hand or out of control in a relative sense. So I don't know what's going on with the Commanders, but definitely a letdown for that city. Got to give kudos to the Bears. And I think for me, Luch, to me, it's always been a week-to-week league in the NFL. But this season specifically, if you're not the 49ers or if you're not the Eagles, and I really want to lean more 49ers because that's the only team that seems to be beating everyone convincingly, mostly. The Eagles are kind of squeaking out these interesting wins. And when the Vikings did this last season, we were like, oh, they're frauds. But because it's the Eagles, we want to continue to say they're a good football team. I'm not saying they're a bad football team. I'm saying let's not be partial with these teams. Last season, the Eagles are winning like the Vikings did last season. Close games, down to the wire, and they just keep finding ways. But that's not sustainable in the end against the 49ers. Like, so to me, right now, I'm bringing this up. I know we're talking Bears Commanders. I know I jumped around a bit. I'm going to make this a lot more concise. My point is, there are these weird outcomes that keep happening every week this season. Every week, a team that should win is going down. And we haven't really seen this in a while, I think, where it feels like there's no real separation at talent. So I'm taking it back to the Bears Commanders because I think we all genuinely felt like the Commanders would win this game at home slightly convincingly, and they got blown out. So this has been the most week-to-week league in the NFL I've seen probably almost in all my years watching.
A couple of things I can piggyback off that. I read a tweet, and I don't know who to credit it to, someone on my timeline, and then I accidentally hit the refresh button and I lost it. But the favorites this year are almost exactly 500 against the spread. So, and don't get me, much like you and much like our listeners, are tracking line movement and where the money is and et cetera. But some of these games that felt trappy were not traps last week. The cream rose to the top. 49ers took care of business. We'll get there. The Eagles took care of business. That line was 6.5, and then the Rams, had that overtime win last week, and the Eagles kind of snuck by, and it got bet down to 4.5. I get it. Eagles on the road across the country. I'm willing to give them more credit going across the country against a talented team and winning by 9 points. 9 points in the NFL is a considerable margin. The Giants were in a much tougher spot than the Bears heading into this week, missing their entire offensive line, and then Daniel Jones goes down. But I tell you what, it's not like Miami hung 50 on the Giants. That was a game at halftime. So even the Giants with zero competency up front, with an injured Daniel Jones, kind of hung in there, and that line moved to like 12.5. I kind of thought Miami would take care of business, and they did, but it wasn't like a 40-point, ass kicking.
Yeah.
So you're absolutely right. People wanted to rate the Giants for dead, and even though the Giants, got handled pretty well, like, what do you want from them with no starters up front, basically playing, and Daniel Jones out, and unless subpar defense as it is, no Saquon Barkley again. All things considered, the Giants at least went out there, made a big play on defense on the goal line, didn't hang their heads. They showed up to play, and Miami ended up covering. But the thing is, it wasn't like, wow, Miami by 50. A week-to-week league, there are adjustments, but the Chicago game and talking about the Commanders, just from like a momentum standpoint, maybe Washington took that Eagles team to the brink in overtime the previous week, and that
division game.
You have a young team. You can argue that you can hang over a little bit from that game as much as coming off of a high, to lose in that fashion. Jahan Dotson at the buzzer ties the game up against Philly. They end up losing. You can't tell me those players aren't going to think about that, for more of the week with the Bears coming into town.
Yeah.
And they should have. So that was, and I know you do a lot of showdown, and, you said you were excited for that one. And I punched a KOTB next round ticket last week on that showdown with the Bears. So I was extremely interested in that game. And just to kind of circle back on, and generally what my process was, I did a couple hand builds, and I went with DJ Moore. I won with a 2-4 Chief. I had DJ Moore at captain, Justin Fields, and then I had 4 Commanders. I had Sam Howell, Logan Thomas, Curtis Samuel, and Gibson. So
you had a great night.
I nailed it. I nailed the game so much that, that's a lineup where maybe you're wrong 8 out of 10 times, but the 2 times you're right. My story, we always talk about telling a story with our showdown lineups.
Yeah.
My story was, 5.5 point spread. It's not like it's 2 touchdowns. Maybe the Bears come out with a lead. DJ Moore catches the first touchdown. Maybe it's a little negative of a game script. In my wildest imagination, I didn't pencil in DJ Moore nuking the entire slate.
And Logan Thomas was just catching everything.
And I faded Brian Robinson, right? I was like, you know what? More often times than not, it's a smash spot for Brian Robinson. No doubt. But what if it's not? And he was way over-owned. And as soon as I saw the sportsbook sending me push notifications, boosting his rushing totals and all this stuff, I'm like, oh, man, they want people to bet on Brian Robinson today.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was funny the way it worked. But he got game scripted out, not to the effect of Washington threw the ball, 53 straight times, the most times in over a decade. I wasn't calling that. I was not calling that. Yeah. But it's pretty funny the way it worked out. My thought was, DJ Moore's the alpha here. If they play with a lead and it's not with the run game, it could be DJ Moore. Keep in mind, fresh off a game where we both saw A.J. Brown absolutely demolish his Washington secondary. And, suddenly they've given up.
We'll talk about A.J. Brown later.
Oh, we will. But
that's a discussion. That's a real discussion point right now.
All of a sudden, the Commanders have given up 30-plus points in 4 of their 5 games. So now moving forward, receivers against the Commanders are going to be a big thing. And I feel like I kind of beat that by a week. Yeah. It's not a secret anymore. The cat's out of the bag. But that was, it felt good because, and it's probably relatable. And when you're playing DFS and the rake is so high and the ROI is so bad, to finally just absolutely nail something this season. Felt really good. I've had a couple of close calls, but and I've definitely been personally like catering my bankroll more towards sports betting because we've had so much success at Scores and Odds in the prop game and things like that. So I proportion it, and I took a couple shots, and my other two lineups, I was playing the past game. I had Terry McLaurin, a captain, and Jahan Dotson on my other captain team. I don't know what's going on schematically or why they're not getting peppered with more targets, but with the salary being a thing, that's kind of what led me to Logan Thomas and Curtis Samuel in the same lineup. If I would have went with Jahan Dotson on that team, I would have had to punt St. Brown or someone I just was a little less uncomfortable playing. So, of course, you get a little lucky. But when your lineup tells a story, you have to get a little bit lucky in this game we play. So felt good. We'll see, man. Round 2, King of the Beach in a couple of weeks. Hopefully, I can get in that top 75 and make some noise. But I'm with you. A lot of the things that we talked about. I think Washington will be competitive all year, but I think that defense is going to be an issue for sure. As for Chicago, who knows what we'd be talking about if they lost that game. Right. And now, Justin Fields, as porous as Washington looked, he looked damn good in that first half, Chief. So it's just another weekend where you look at Justin Fields and then you watch USC every Saturday and see Caleb Williams doing Mahomes-esque type stuff at USC. And you start to think, these coaches are playing for their jobs too. So a really unique situation with Caleb Williams being the best quarterback prospect, allegedly, that we've seen in a while. And some of these teams that keep losing or maybe squeak a win or two out here. So fun Thursday game. I'll pass it over to you. We saw, I don't know if you want to go a little chronologically here.
What can I want to talk about something overarching because I think the theme of this show might be it's a week-to-week league for what it's worth. So here's what we saw this week, Luuch. And I am gonna go chronologically, but whether they were favorites or not favorites, there are certain teams that I think we expected to win this week, and they just didn't get it done. Now, you mentioned something last week on the pod about maybe the Bills flying into England and having some problems, and the Jaguars already being there. But the Bills are supposed to be a better team than the Jaguars. They're supposed to win this game, period. And they didn't get shellacked, or in my opinion, they kind of got shellacked. The score doesn't reflect it, but the Jaguars were just a better team that day. I didn't honestly expect the Bills to lose this game. They lose 25-20. I did expect this team to lose. I didn't expect them to lose in this fashion. The Patriots might be the worst team in the NFL. That's saying something. They lose 34-0. They lose, 32-6 or something last week. And it's probably going to come again.
New Orleans. No offense to New Orleans, but yeah. New Orleans, not a juggernaut. Not a terrible team, not a juggernaut.
Right. So that's my point. So it's not like I expect the Patriots to win this game. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying they lost 34-0. They generated 0 points in an NFL game and barely generated points last week. This is getting interesting. Something to keep your eye on. The Titans. Good God, man. Can you call up that front office and figure something out for them? How in the world did they lose to the Colts with this type of performance from DeAndre Hopkins? I was flabbergasted. I said, wait a minute. Nuke goes nuke, and they lose. This is incredible. The Steelers beat the Ravens. What in the world? They should not have lost to the Ravens. Should not have beat the Ravens. This one I think was borderline. This one was borderline, okay? Hear me out. I thought the Texans were going to beat the Falcons for all intents and purposes. I think the Texans have been a better football team. Look, they hung tight. They kicked a lot of field goals to just hang around in that game. I think what I'm saying in this game is they weren't favorites. Miami was the favorite. They just couldn't get in the end zone when they needed it. And that's what happened in this game. Texas is still a really good football team. Expect the Panthers to lose, but they really got just destroyed. 42-24 is actually a little bit too close. The Lions essentially destroyed the Panthers. You got the Eagles who snuck by-ish on the Rams, and you got the Chiefs who kind of snuck by with the Vikings and their bad play calling. They didn't have enough timeouts late in the game, so the Vikings couldn't even really put together a quality drive. I expected the Jets to beat the Broncos, but Russell Wilson, the game was close. Russell Wilson has one really bad mistake, and it cost him. And all of a sudden, instead of it being, 21 to, 24 or 23 or whatever it was, 21-24, they lose the game because of a turnover. My point is, the big one, the overarching ones, the big ones. The Ravens can't lose to the Steelers. The Titans can't lose to the Colts. And the Bills can't lose to the Jaguars. Like this, so we're not getting real separation in the league right now. The Steelers are leading the division. This is what I'm talking about. We're not getting real separation from the teams that are supposed to be good. The Ravens are supposed to be one of the better teams in this division. For me, along with Cleveland, I have Cleveland as the best team in this division, TBD. But the Bills aren't getting any separation. You see them, not real separation. The Jets just won another game, and the Jets beat them the first game of the season. So no real separation is happening in any of these divisions outside of the Eagles are leading by default because Washington can't close. The Giants are terrible, and the Cowboys are frauds. And then the 49ers are just going to run away with their division at this point. That's it. It's up for grabs in the NFL in every division right now. This is insane. We're just 5 weeks in. I know I'm probably a little bit excited. But my point is, Luuch, week to week, I think there's going to be even some more controversy as we get through the season. If the Lions don't blow a game, they're undefeated. They're probably the next closest team to being able to clinch a division comfortably if they keep winning games. This is insane. Luuch, I'm going to shut up. Back over to you.
How many drops? Poor Lamar. How many drops?
They should have won that game. 8 drops to be exact. There were 8 drops, 3 touchdown drops to be exact. 1 from Mark Andrews, 1 from Bateman, 1 from Nelson Aguilar. 3 touchdown drops. And guess what? 2 of them were on the same drive. 2. The Bateman-Andrews occurred in the same drive. Okay. All right. Sorry. I cut you off. Please forgive me.
No, you're right. And Rashad Bateman was horrendous. On top of his horrendous play and his drives, he's been battling injuries the last 2 years. Odell Beckham, he's still playing banged up. I saw him catch a slant over the middle and then do one of these, wave to the sideline.
Yeah.
And J.K. Dobbins out of the picture. Suddenly, Lamar Jackson has next to nobody. Zay Flowers is incredible as a rookie, but he's a rookie. And you have Mark Andrews. It's not like he's going to stretch the field. He's typically reliable. But outside of that, Lamar is going to have to take more of a shoulder of this offensive production. And you tie in the lack of available healthy options with a bunch of miscues on offense. And both defenses in this game played pretty damn well. You just can't keep giving anybody in the NFL 2 or 3 extra opportunities. No. That's what happened with Tennessee. That's what happened with Baltimore. And Buffalo just straight up was jet lagged a little bit, I think, Buffalo over there in England. And, of course, they just took, speaking of being healthy, a shellacking of defensive players hurt in that game. Matt Milano.
Yeah, Matt Milano's out.
There.
Yeah. Yep.
So there's just some things you can't control, but there certainly are a lot that you can. And those teams, they didn't take care of business. You can say what you want about the defensive injuries in Buffalo. The offense was stagnant and underwhelming in the first half over there in England. Tennessee, I think, had 4 defensive pass interference calls, and 3 of them were on 3rd and longs. So, they kept a couple of Gardner Minshew drives alive. And, Ryan Tannehill was dealing. DeAndre Hopkins had a game. That was Tannehill's best game this season. And they got in the red zone and kicked field goals all game. Couldn't convert in the red zone. So red zone offense, drop passes, and some injuries for a couple of teams kind of, snowballed into some losses there. And a tough loss for Denver because, casuals and outsiders as well, you lost to the New York Jets. But the New York Jets defense is good. Like you said, there's no margin for error there. And he played a fantastic game, all things considered. The defense let him down yet again. Historically, Denver has the worst DVOA ever recorded through 5 weeks of any regular season.
Once again, and I keep saying this, and it's crazy. Russell Wilson is not actually playing bad this season. We've talked about this, Luuch. He's been playing fine. I saw flashes of, young Russell Wilson yesterday in one of their touchdown drives where he's running around, everything's broken down. He's in the middle of the field juking guys, running past people. I mean, he's had pretty good decision-making overall. Yesterday, he just had one really bad mistake at the end of the game, and it cost them big time. But Russ, the offense has been fine every game. Like, as much as we're saying the Jets are good, the Broncos still scored 3 touchdowns here. Like, as you know what I'm saying? Like, they're fine. The problem is this defense. And we didn't get enough. Obviously, I was in on Zach Wilson and Garrett Wilson, and Breece Hall just, destroyed this team, destroyed the slate as well. So Zach Wilson didn't have to do as much as I thought he would. But in a game where he didn't have to do much, he still had about 200 yards passing. And he didn't even have to do anything. That tells you how bad this defense is in Denver.
It's so bad. I'm shocked. This was supposed to be a strength of this football team for the past 2 seasons, and second half of last season, we started to see a little bit of this, and now it seems like things are unraveling. And when are we going to stop giving Sean Payton passes? I mean, he won a Super Bowl in 2009 or whatever it was, and suddenly that's a really long time ago, and now I feel really old. But that's almost 15 years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got to be on the hot seat. That sounds ridiculous, but he's done nothing. Nothing. And it's a little terrifying. If I were him, I'd be a little nervous. I would.
Yeah, I agree 100%. 100%.
You know what would be scary? Nope, I don't think anybody penciled this in. What if New England is the worst team in football and lands Caleb Williams?
So go ahead. I've got a thought, but I'm going to let you finish your thought, please.
They're not inept. Bill Belichick, Robert Kraft, the organization, they know who's in that division and for how long. You have healthy Tua with Tyreek and a young up-and-coming coach who's in with the new type of play calling. You have Josh Allen. He's not going anywhere. And as long as he's in that division, the Bills always have 10-win upside.
Mm-hmm.
And you have the Jets. I don't know what the Jets are going to be, but if Aaron Rodgers plays football next year and you keep that defense intact, there is a large gap between the Patriots and everybody else in that division.
So here's what I think. I think if Caleb Williams ends up anywhere near the Patriots organization, he better pray that they get him some help. Because you don't want your young, talented, big arm, athletic quarterback out here with like limited weapons. Like, they're going to have to do something, right? Like, I don't think they need to fix their running back room, to be honest with you. I think Ramondre and Zeke being there will be fine. Definitely he will need Zeke in pass protection. But they're going to have to go and get a guy. And I mean a real guy, an alpha receiver that he can rely on. And then they're going to have to draft someone else that is going to be good enough for him. Like, Marvin Harrison Jr. isn't going to be there unless they make a trade. But, like, they're going to need someone or some people. Let me say that. He's going to need help. Like, I think Kendrick Bourne's a talented guy that they could keep, but he shouldn't be your number one receiver. Devontae Parker is not anything near number one receiver anymore. Like, let's go get a guy. Like, we've talked about this, right? When the team wants to go all in on their young quarterback, what do? They go and get a guy. The Eagles went and got A.J. Brown. The Bills went and got Stephon Diggs. The Bears, for all intents and purposes, went and got DJ Moore, and they're starting to see the effects of that, right? Like, check this out. Hear me out here. When Patrick Mahomes was in more of his youth, he had Tyreek Hill. Now, yes, he had Travis Kelce, but Tyreek Hill was the game changer. He had a guy, right? he had some guy. Now Patrick Mahomes has flourished and he's grown, and Tyreek is not there, and he's been in the system. He's a more mature quarterback. But when he was younger, he had more weapons, right?
I agree. Having an elite tight end is amazing, but I feel like oftentimes it's a luxury. I mean, Mark Andrews is fantastic too, but Lamar had zero help. Nobody that can win on the outside for how long?
Right.
You know, you could make the same. I mean, then again, you know, Mahomes did his thing without Tyreek and a bunch of.
But he was still young. He was still more mature. But at that point, he had already won a Super Bowl.
You're right. We talk about this quite often. Stephon Diggs goes to Buffalo, right? Tyreek Hill goes to Miami for Tua.
Right.
Right.
That's a game. And yeah, they drafted Waddle, but Tyreek is the more experienced, the guy. Waddle's the sidekick.
The Bears
opens it all up.
The Bears bring in DJ Moore.
Right.
The Giants bring in Darren Waller. Although he's a tight end, they don't have anybody that's winning on the outside. So
right. I'm
mean,
saying for young quarterbacks, that's really what this is about. This isn't for Tom Brady. This isn't for Drew Brees. Hey, guess what? Joe Burrow got the same treatment. Now, they did theirs in the draft, but they went and got the weapons. Joe Burrow comes in. They get Jamar Chase. They've got Tyler Boyd. They've got T. Higgins. They got in the weapons. Once again, they did theirs in the draft, but they did it. They got in the weapons. Who in the world has Mac Jones been able to throw to since he's been there? No one.
I agree.
You got to have weapons. You have to have. And Lamar, good God, he got it done with no weapons, but he's a different type of quarterback. So for everyone that wants to write off Lamar and talk about, whatever, he deserves that money. He got it done with no help. He had Mark Andrews and a bunch of scrubs.
Yep. So that was a lot, but it's true.
Yeah, it's true.
And
why is Zach Wilson going to continue to get better? He's got help. He's got Breece Hall. He's got Cook. He's got Dalvin.
He's got Garrett Wilson.
He's got Garrett Wilson.
Other veteran receivers.
Lazard. He's got, and now he has Aaron Rodgers to kind of talk him through. And he's got enough. He's got enough help on the offensive side to get him through. Michael Carter's still there. He's another good pass-catching running back. He can rely. Like you got to get these young guys help. C.J. Stroud. Now, Stroud is getting it done in a different fashion. They went out and got Dalton Schultz, who's a pretty good tight end. Tank Dell is the field stretcher. Nico Collins is kind of like the semi-volume guy, and Robert Woods is the elder statesman. Like, you know what I'm saying? He's got enough help to make this work. But look, in New England, it's like, what is this? You could go out and get some high school wide receivers right now. No, I'm not going to say that because I don't like to compare high school players to NFL talent because it's night and day. But you could go down to college right now and pull in some of these guys right now, and he'd have more help. There's a guy right now by the name of Malachi Corley playing at Western Kentucky University. He could come in and be the number one receiver on this team. If you don't know who Malachi Corley is, look him up. Right? He's not
grab a couple guys from Bishop Sycamore.
What's that?
You can grab a couple guys from Bishop Sycamore and bring them in to New England.
Please, that's what I'm saying. Like
about that scandal.
Yeah, but anyway, you go ahead, Luuch. I'm done with that rant.
I just switching gears and looking back at this week. The chalk. A lot of the right plays hit. The chalk, and from a DFS perspective, the chalk hit. That mid-range tier of running backs, they were all in really good spots. And A-Chain was very highly owned in DFS, and he had limited work, but he still smashed. And I think the bottom line is he's getting goal line work and he's getting third down work. So in that offense, individual player ownership matters much less than I think a lot of people think it does. Like it's the lineup collectively. Cool. Like if you think A-Chain is going to smash and he's 30%, then you play him. Then you get a little bit different elsewhere. Like, don't avoid playing who you think are the best players just because of ownership. If that's your conviction, you should go for it. There were plenty of ways to get different. I think the biggest miss by the field yesterday for those who were very high on Detroit when St. Brown was inactive, and so was Jahmyr Gibbs. Josh Reynolds started gathering some steam. Sam Laporta, what talk about rookie tight ends? He's awesome. Started gaining some steam as well. People were even talking Khalif Raymond and whatever. If these ownerships are going to carry, these players are going to carry 10, 15, 20% ownership, and then Laporta was pretty popular as well. Why Jared Goff was only like 4%, and he absolutely turned the slate on its head, even had a rushing touchdown. Come on. So I think the biggest miss was, everyone playing these Lions value pieces, and then Laporta, whose role you'd think would be enhanced without St. Brown and Gibbs. And
just a bad Carolina team.
Yes, and just abandoning Jared Goff and their Bills, because I get it. It's unpleasant to think about, but when you think of, well, if these receivers are in a good spot, I know they're cheap. You got to factor in some Jared Goff. And I only handled 7 teams I think I had, so Jared Goff didn't make the cut for me. I'll be right up front.
Jared Goff plays much better at home right now anyway. So, it was a great play. Great play.
Go ahead and check out Ticketmaster. More ways to find your perfect seat. Again, give you an interactive seat map with a 360-degree preview. You don't want to be stuck behind one of those pillars in the stadium. A lot of flexibility to sell or transfer your tickets if something comes up. And, of course, the mobile tickets are the easiest way to get into the game. You don't want to lose the hard copy stubs if you're tailgating a little bit before you get in there. Get those e-tickets. Ticketmaster, easy, accessible. Ticketmaster.com/NFL. Yeah, I mean, kudos to the Lions. Before we start shifting gears, we'll look ahead. We'll talk about a little bit of everything, some big matchups, some DFS, some lines that are out. How does it feel? How does it make you feel as a Panthers fan? Like seeing DJ Moore, and then they come out and there's rumors saying they wanted a number 1 receiver. And we talk about organizations bringing in these high caliber guys to help out their young quarterbacks. Like, was Mingo enough?
Let's pause there. Let's pause there.
Go ahead. I just want to hear your thoughts, because with the way the trades broke out, I didn't even know if that made sense with when DJ Moore was in the shuffle and having Bryce Young at number 1. Could have that even been possible to construct Bryce Young as a Panther?
So let's talk through this whole scenario, because the Panthers, we're just not explosive. We haven't been explosive, an explosive offense in years. Since the Cam Newton heyday. When Cam was there, we were semi-explosive at certain points. And I'm saying this because I think it's important. We lost our 2 most explosive pieces because we were ready to do a rebuild. And look, if those guys were ready to leave, I get it. You don't want to be in an organization just, wilting away your talents. We lost DJ Moore and Christian McCaffrey. Now, I want everybody to sit back and think about this. We had DJ Moore and Christian McCaffrey on that team. And now we've seen that if the Bears are going to get DJ Moore involved, it's going to get ugly. They're going to have to really try to fight. They're going to start trying to neutralize DJ Moore at some point, because they're not just going to let him just pop off for 150 a game. I don't see that. Christian McCaffrey, and I think as a Panthers fan, we were most happy to see him go. The man gets to go to the 49ers and win. Now, they didn't get to the Super Bowl because all their quarterbacks were hurt. But Christian McCaffrey is probably in the best situation he could have ever been in his life in the NFL. But we had both of those pieces on the Carolina Panthers at the same time. If you don't think coaching matters, just look at Christian McCaffrey winning football games in San Francisco and look at him in Carolina. putting up huge games and losing. DJ Moore still isn't really winning anything, but he got out of Carolina. It's ugly, man. Like, when you see those two guys popping off and we had them both in the organization, it's just like we couldn't figure something out here. Like, we imagine, and this is going to tell you how disappointed I am in this. And I'm saying this wholeheartedly, Luuch. As much as you know I've given this guy a hard time, imagine if Aaron Rodgers came to Carolina with McCaffrey and DJ Moore. We would be a better football team. Because he's not going to turn the ball over and those guys are going to get off. You know what I'm saying? Like, we've seen this. It's what he does.
It's a tough. It has to be tough from a GM standpoint with a team that hasn't been winning, and you have a couple of good players in this day and age where any young star player has more leverage than they did 10 years ago when asking their way out of situations. It's a little bit, in my opinion, it's a little ridiculous in every sport. The NBA, clearly. I mean, look at Anthony Davis, James Harden, player XYZ that demands trades, and they get out of multiple situations. There's no honor in any contract anymore. They'll just, it's just in the back of your mind, you got to wonder, are these guys, were there talks behind closed doors? Have these guys ever threatened to sit out games? You have to wonder. And then it's like, okay, well, if they're really not going to play for me, can I get any value back in return? But from devil's advocate, if you nail one draft, you can be very much so more competitive in a weak division in 1 year. If you get a couple of pieces and nail a couple, then you're adding somebody onto DJ Moore, Christian McCaffrey, and you have a little bit of an offense there.
Here's the thing, and I'm saying this because I'm not the GM. I think the Chicago Bears did what they felt like they should have done, to kind of make their organization better. If I'm not mistaken, Carolina was going to be 8 or 9, or however it was going to shake out if they would not have traded up and traded DJ and traded some picks and so forth and so on. We're still looking like we're not going to win many games. If you don't think Caleb Williams is better than Bryce Young, then I don't know what to tell you.
Wouldn't that be something?
Right? So now, as an organization, and then we can move on to other stuff, because we've committed to Bryce Young, the Panthers don't want to look like idiots in this draft and then go draft Caleb Williams. They're not going to do that, right? So we're handcuffed to Bryce Young. We could have just stayed pat, kept DJ Moore. We still could have brought Andy Dalton in and probably would have won a few more football games. And we could have drafted it. Well, I guess we would have probably gotten to Caleb Williams. But my point is, if we're going to be bad and draft in just an okay quarterback, let's go get a generational talent quarterback the next year. Let's just continue to be bad, right? We got a new coach. They're going to give him some time. Come on, man. Caleb Williams is more explosive than Bryce Young. I don't have anything against Bryce Young either. I think Bryce Young is a smarter quarterback, and I think he's going to show up as a smarter quarterback if he has the time. But it's such a what have you done for me lately league. These rookie quarterbacks don't get a lot of time.
I don't think Caleb Williams is like the rare exception where you would double down, take this guy 1 overall if you're the Panthers. And what some people would be like, I get it. It's a big ballsy move. Don't get me wrong. You're going to piss a lot of people off in the Bryce Young camp for sure. But Caleb Williams doesn't come around once every 3 years, every 5 years. His skill set. I mean, I can't say he's Patrick Mahomes, but his mannerisms on the field and the angles he creates and the things he's able to do is like, look.
I know Anthony Richardson. I know Anthony Richardson kind of got hurt again in this past game, but if he stays healthy, if he can figure out a way to improve his health, improve his long-term injury concerns, The Colts swung for the fences, and I think they got exactly what they wanted. A huge, athletic, strong quarterback that they could figure it out with. They didn't play it safe and take Will Levis, who's going to sit in Tennessee and do nothing, or how. Like, you see what I'm saying? They swung for the fences. Everybody's like, oh my God, they took him at 4. How often does Cam Newton get drafted? Not often. You get what I'm saying? Like, you're not going to get Cam Newton. You're not going to get Patrick Mahomes. You're not going to get Peyton Manning. You're not going to get Dan Marino. You're not going to get those types of guys every year. When they come, you scoop them up and you try to make their life as easy as possible, or their career as best as it can be, by giving them the supporting pieces that they need to be successful. I'm done.
True or false? And then we will move on. This is fun. True or false? If you add Caleb Williams to the Carolina Panthers team right now, they're the best team in that division.
False.
Is it close?
Close. He needs more weapons. Right. So here's the thing. If you look at that division right now, who has all the weapons? You can think it's Atlanta. It is not. I'm not. Everybody's on the Atlanta hype train. They're not winning this division. Who has all the weapons in this division? It's the Saints and it's the Buccaneers. They have all the weapons. When you've got Mike Evans, a bona fide wide receiver, you've got Chris Godwin, and you've got some other guys that you can sprinkle in like Cade Otton, and you've got a running back that can catch passes out of the backfield. And then you go over to New Orleans. He's got Shaheed. He's got Michael Thomas. He's got Chris Olave. He's got Kamara back. He's got Jawan Johnson. He's got a Swiss Army knife in Taysom Hill. Like, they have all the weapons. So that's the thing. When I look at Atlanta, yeah, they got Jonnu Smith, and they got Mac Hollins, and they got Drake London, and they got Bijan, and God, what's the tight end that they never use?
Kyle Pitts.
They've got Kyle Pitts, but their offense doesn't use those guys like that consistently. Like, I mean, Desmond Ridder threw for, I think, over 300 yesterday, but they still only had 21 points to show for it. Like, you see what I'm saying? Now, if you took Caleb Williams to Atlanta, they're like probably they're the division team.
Well,
because that offense looks totally different now. Totally different.
For those who listened to last week's podcast, we ran through the catchable target numbers, and Kyle Pitts and Drake London, out of I don't remember what it was, 130 qualified receivers and tight ends, ranked in the bottom 10 of catchable targets. So Pitts finally had over 70 yards. It's going to snow, so good for him. Desmond Ridder finally getting his guys the ball a little bit. Anyway, moving on, we got two teams in London who need a win, coming off some pretty bad losses. And Tennessee is 3.5-point dogs. The line moves from 5.5 to 3.5. And listen, this is the same Titans team. You don't know what you're getting from week to week. It was the same thing the last 2 years. You can go as far back as beating the Bills on Monday Night Football at home. Week 1, they go out there, probably should have beat the Saints. You get 4 picks from Tannehill. You get a controversial non-fumble with Derek Carr. They lose the game. They go out, they beat one of the Super Bowl darlings in a shootout, and the Titans score 27 points on the Chargers. I'm saying preseason and Super Bowl darlings anyway, and they beat the Chargers. Come back, get absolutely shellacked by the Browns, get bullied up front, put up a field goal. What do they do next? Absolutely just pulverize the Bengals and Joe Burrow. And maybe Joe Burrow wasn't right, but that was only 8 days ago now, and he looked damn good against the Cardinals, and Jamar Chase went nuclear. And they get a pretty convincing win in a 3-point spread against a formidable Cardinals team, which I saw a lot of people touting the Cardinals on Sunday, that's for sure.
But let's talk through that. The Cardinals played fine outside of Josh Dobbs and these turnovers. Just seriously, it was 34. They won. The Bengals won 34-20, and part of that was the Cardinals' bad decision making by Dobbs with these weird turnovers. Like, the Cardinals were in this game. If you watch the game, they were in it, And similarly to the Broncos, they threw it away a couple times late. But look, that's not to take away from Jamar Chase's ridiculous game. But but once again, we're not expecting the Cardinals to win a bunch of games. We look at that roster, we're not like, oh, yep. They play really hard though. If other teams use this model and just got their guys to play harder, buy into what the culture, they'd probably be in a few more games as well.
Let me look at this game with you, Chief, real quick. I know we can't spend the whole show on the London game, but we mentioned all the miscues by Baltimore. They should have had more points on the board. It happens. Tons of drops. Tennessee moved the ball. I mean, Tannehill looked great. Moved the ball against Indy, but they settled for X amount of field goals. They just missed a DeAndre Hopkins, a Derrick Henry to Hopkins touchdown pass by a toe. And A, they would have won the game, most likely. And B, they settled for 3 there, too. I know I wrote an article for Sports Handle last week. I took the under in that Bills-Jags game, and, that played out perfectly. I know what I said. And you look at these two teams, they left a lot of points on the board last week. They can both score. Both have some issues in the secondary. And this total opened up at 45.5. It's bet all the way down to 39.5 on BetMGM right now. And I know what everyone's saying. Oh, well, we talked about London and the jet lag and the team struggling. 39.5 is really low, and you get Derrick Henry going, DeAndre Hopkins look good. You can say what you want about the Ravens defense, and I don't doubt they're formidable, but Pittsburgh's had so many issues this season, so I can't really gauge Baltimore against Pittsburgh. 39.5 seems low after being bet down 6 points from an open. And I think we're getting a little, what have you done for me lately? Recency bias money coming in on hitting that under. 21-20 hits this over. And I don't think that's too much to ask for. That Titans secondary had a lot of issues. Christian Fulton, for those of you that really follow defensive players on the side of the ball, was a top 15 PFF corner last year. And he single-handedly got abused and lost that game for Tennessee yesterday. So I think it's an interesting matchup to get over 39.5. We talked about the Ravens' struggles to win on the outside. Well, that's the weakness of Tennessee. So as much as we talk unders, I think that 39.5 just might be a tick too low when you have Lamar Jackson on one side, and DeAndre Hopkins kind of gelling a little bit on the other side. I'm kind of feeling 21-20 at worst. I'm actually going to rate that pick up. I'm taking the over in this one. I couldn't tell you who wins this game right now, man.
Yeah, I can't either. I don't know who's going to win this game. It's very baffling. I don't mind that calling me over. I'm going to go back to Thursday night. Chiefs should just absolutely destroy the Broncos here at home. So I'm just going to go ahead and bypass that one. Yeah, I'm with you. Ravens, Titans have no clue. What I do know is the Dolphins might actually put up 40 this week. My God, they're playing the Panthers and the Dolphins are at home. Listen, folks, the Panthers are awful. They are awful. This is another week where Tua, Tyreek, Waddle, this crew, God, man, Devin Akane. God, I can't. Achan. That's it. Gosh, Devin Achan just exploded yesterday. They still got Mostert there. We'll see what happens, but I'm just going through games that I feel like are just going to be kind of blowouts here. That's going to be a blowout. Raiders Patriots right now to me is going to be a blowout. I don't see how the Patriots right the ship against the Raiders unless just a miracle happens. The game of the week that I'm most looking forward to, Luuch, believe it or not, it is not the Bears-Vikings, which should be, a shootout of all shootouts. Luuch, my game of the week is the Buccaneers-Lions. This is actually a sneaky game that could really kind of give either of these teams a little more separation. This should be a tough game on both sides. Listen, I got to give it to Baker Mayfield. He's playing great this season. Look what happens when you get a competent offensive coordinator. Wow.
Seriously.
He's playing great. And then you got the Lions coming to town. We're going to get Jared Goff outside of, the dome. And so we'll see. But the Lions have been fine. I'm actually most looking forward to this particular game because, once again, man, the Giants are going to the Bills. That's going to be a thrashing, okay? I think the big-time game of the week in terms of scoring is probably Bears-Vikings. And then the Raiders should be able to put up some points on the Patriots. The Raiders are at home. But for me, my game of the week from a real life NFL, just show me what you got. Let's see what we got here. Lions Buccaneers. I really want to sit down and watch that one.
Backtracking to your Miami Carolina game, a chain 7,400 on DK, second highest priced running back on the main slate. I don't know if that's going to deter people from playing him, but in what should be an extreme script, the running back touches were 32 for Mostert and 26 for a chain. I mean, snap count. I'm sorry. Snap count last week, 32 snaps for Mostert, 26 for a chain, and what should be a very positive game script. If I'm building multiple teams, I'm going to have him in my builds. I don't, even if he's pushing 8,500 at this point, he's been so explosive. And correct me if I'm wrong. I know the numbers say it, even just maybe the eye test you can give me. The Panthers are much worse against the run than the pass. Is that accurate?
Correct. But they're bad all around. It doesn't matter. They're just bad. They're bad.
I mean, 7,400. Do you care what his price is at this point, as long as it's not like, McCaffrey zone? Like this week in this matchup, do you have to think about? I mean,
well, look, he's not going to keep rattling off 40 and 50-yard runs, but it's definitely possible. So I don't know. Did you see his big touchdown run yesterday? Did he look like he was actually running?
No.
It looked like he jogged all the way to, like he just, listen, man. Miami, I got to give it to Miami, right? I'm going to stop. We're almost done with the show, I know. I got to say this, Luuch. Miami has, I think they're going to start doing, I think they're doing things that the league is going to try to duplicate. They're saying, look, let's go out and get skill position, but let's go get speed. Let's go get speed, Luuch. Now, look, these guys can catch. Don't get me wrong. But why is Tyreek, to me, Tyreek so much better in Miami than he was in Kansas City? Why is that? Well, if you think you're going to cover up Tyreek, you're wrong, because then Jalen Waddle's just going to do the same thing. If you think you're going to cover him up, they'll just roll Raheem Mostert out of the backfield and make him a receiver. Well, he's fast too, And then for all intents and purposes now, they've got Achane. So he's also one of the fastest guys in the league. And you're looking around at this team and you're saying, well, who do we try to stop today? And guess what, Luuch? When they're all on the field, the answer is no one. You can't stop any of them. Now, I know that Buffalo did their thing. I know they lost in Buffalo. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying the team is unbeatable. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is it's very hard to slow down 4 weapons built on speed at the same time when they're all in the game together. It's tough. And, the Panthers are going to have their hands full this week.
I credit them for having conviction behind using draft capital and believing this guy will be such a difference maker. It's a team come in with Raheem Mostert and Jeff Wilson, 2 pros, 2 guys that can complement each other well, and to use draft capital, decent draft capital on a guy like this, when there are certainly other positions, that Miami has a need for, is awesome. And I don't know what his ownership's going to come in at. Yes, in theory, do I want to pay $7,400 for a guy that's playing, 50% of the snaps at his position? No. But in this game script and the matchup and his just, plate-breaking speed, ability to hit that 70-yard, home splash play, like I'm in. I'm not going to exclude him. I don't care who says it's a bad play. Yeah, it seems like a bad play, but he has special speed and a special offense in the best matchup on the board. I'm going to have him in my builds. I don't care.
Yeah.
I'll take some.
Yeah.
Sure.
Listen, I'm with you, man. I'm with you 100%. I mean, I like it. I like it. Me likey.
A lot of good divisional games too. Just a sneaky competitive slate. Jaguars, Colts. I mean, two teams coming off massive wins. Jacksonville coming back from their 2-week vacation in the UK. Colts coming off a huge win. And Gardner Minshew is the best backup quarterback in the NFL. As soon as he came in the ball game,
I beg to differ. But I understand.
As soon as he came in the game, I said, "There's no way the Titans win this game. No way. They prepped all week for Richardson, with their kind of their fake pass rush kind of thing, and to contain him. And Minshew came in and took the 5, 6, 10-yard plays. Tennessee didn't tackle, and he did his thing. I'm really interested in this Jaguars-Colts game because the Tennessee loss and the Jaguars win over Buffalo gives Jacksonville such a leg up to win this division. And if they beat the Colts this Sunday, I think that gives them a little bit of separation in that division. We just talked about how there's really no separation in the NFL outside of the Eagles and the Niners. It could be Jacksonville as kind of that, third most separation with a win over Indianapolis. This should be a fun one, man.
Yeah, absolutely. And as we were talking, I was trying to pull up the backup quarterbacks in the league. And God, it might be slowing my feed down some. So I'm really sorry about that. If so, please forgive me. But I'm going to where I feel like the real good backup quarterbacks are, right?
Andy Dalton's good. I will give you that.
Let's talk about it. I actually think Drew Lock being on the Seahawks is good. What I say that's better than Gardner Minshew levels? No. Mike White on the Dolphins might sneakily be the best backup quarterback situation. You get what I'm saying? Like, this is a guy that came in for the Jets, and we saw that he could air it out. Believe it or not, I think Davis Mills still being with the Texans is good. A guy that's been there, knows the organization. Who knew we were going to get into backup quarterback talk today? That's why you guys gotta love this show. Okay, hear me out here. It's going to sound crazy. Marcus Mariota with the Eagles.
No, not with the way he looked, man. He looks
no. What I'm saying, but he's a professional. I think the Eagles and that coaching staff, if it came to him playing, they would put him in a position to win. He's someone that has played with A.J. Brown, right? Didn't he play with A.J. Brown in Tennessee? If I'm not mistaken. So You see, like I'm saying, it's not as bad as you think. Jameis Winston with the Saints is definitely on the list. Gardner Minshew with the Colts, absolutely. Teddy Bridgewater is sitting on the Lions bench right now in case Jared Goff goes down. Taylor Heineke is with the Falcons, and he needs to be starting. He should be the starter. Why is Desmond Ridder starting? My God. Sam Darnold is with the 49ers. I think that was just okay. But number one, this is the number one rank. Andy Dalton with the Panthers. I'm not saying this to be a homer. I think Andy Dalton's the best backup in the NFL, period. Like,
I could see him or Minshew.
Talent.
Those are my two favorites. And just going
absolutely.
back with the Ridder thing.
Jacoby Brissett is sneaky for Washington, though. Let me say that. Like, because he's a guy that's been in the backup role, and he's done it with the Colts, he's done it with the Browns, he's done it with the Patriots, been able to come in, keep the ship afloat, keep pushing forward. He knows how to play his role. Jacoby Brissett with the Commanders is sneaky.
Gardner Minshew's won some meaningful football games. He's got 16 career wins. So I'm with you on Dalton, but I think on Minshew. It's close. Those are my two favorite backup quarterbacks in terms of upside to actually come in and win some ball games. And
absolutely.
Of course, every situation is different, of course. But
absolutely.
Just tying some DFS and some more betting into some of these games. You mentioned that Minnesota-Chicago game, which, of course, there's a lot going on there.
What's the line on that game right now?
What's up with Justin Jefferson? How bad is it looking? Do we have any idea as of Monday?
You know it's going to be tight-lipped there. Nobody's going to talk about what's going on with that situation until they absolutely have to. That's one we're going to ride out all week, I think. Unless he absolutely isn't going. Like, we're riding it. I'm already prepared to get on the ride it out train with that coaching staff. We may not know until Sunday at 10 in the morning from either Rappaport or somebody whether he's going to go or not. Now, the only way I think we get an indication is if he just stops practicing. I think they're going to try everything in their arsenal to have him on the limited practice schedule every day so nobody has any idea what's going on. You get what I'm saying? Because like if he doesn't practice Friday and Saturday, it's like, okay, he's probably not going. We need him at least on the field.
What is the protocol? And I'm sure there's loopholes. What is the bare minimum a player has to do to be listed as limited from a DNP? Is it literally lace up your
run around,
catch this ball real quick? You know?
Hey, yeah.
Hey, Chief, go deep for one pad. Go deep real quick.
We'll roll you down there in a wheelchair. Just stand up and catch it so people can see you're on the field.
But this game has such fantasy potential because if he's out suddenly, I mean, hopefully it's if we don't get news until Sunday, hopefully it's like the 1 a.m. random injury news update that they've been giving once in a while. For some reason, news, you're getting Schefter or Rappaport tweets at 1 a.m. about players playing or not playing. Usually, sometimes you get like that 5, 6 a.m. update, but the 1 a.m. ones are pretty funny. I was still up watching the freaking USC Arizona game, and I'm like scrolling through Twitter seeing injury updates at 1 o'clock in the morning. But then you're like, oh, wow. Well, then you look at this Kirk Cousins, Jordan Addison stack or KJ Osborne or Hawkinson.
Oh, well, you already know Hawkinson, Addison, Osborne, they're all going to be in play.
Jefferson flipped this whole slate in terms of player ownership.
Yeah.
The whole slate.
Yeah.
Because all those Vikings, Hawkinson, Addison will be hovering around 20% probably. KJ Osborne will be at least 10% in GPPs. And on the flip side,
I mean, listen, Osborne, if I'm not mistaken, he was getting just as many targets as Addison yesterday. Like 10%, he's got to be higher than that because look, Justin Jefferson is pretty much taking away 30% of the work.
Yep.
So you got to think they're going to split it between those three. Everybody probably gets an extra 2 to 3 targets because Justin Jefferson is getting 10 to 15 targets a game. So if you're giving Addison, Osborne, and Hawkinson 4 more targets, their floor is increased immensely for their prices.
Against the Bears.
Yeah. On the road. But look, what have the Bears shown us the past 2 weeks? They're going to score early. If we get the Vikings having to trail in this game and keep pushing the ball, the points are going to be there for the taking.
And on the flip side, a less significant injury, but the running back position, Khalil Herbert out multiple leagues. I'm hoping Rashawn Johnson gets cleared. He got concussed. And then Travis Homer all 3 of the running backs got hurt last week. Unbelievable.
So you know what that means? Justin Fields is going to be on the run.
Yep. Design.
Right. You saw that in the game, in the Washington game. They started doing some more of those called runs. Now, they were trying to run the clock. Don't get me wrong. But he's going to have to run if he doesn't have enough running back play.
I've been waiting on Rashawn Johnson, man. I have so many best ball shares. And folks, this guy has been touted on all camp as being their best pass blocking running back. So if this game's a shootout, and I get it. You know what? Deonta Foreman might be active. I don't know if people are going to go there if Rashawn Johnson plays. But
Foreman gets a shot, he's going to crush.
Was pass blocking in camp.
Yeah.
But again, if he's active, if Deonta Foreman's active and Rashawn's out,
he's going to crush. Listen to me. I've seen enough Deonta Foreman in Carolina. I've seen enough Deonta Foreman in Houston. If he gets an opportunity to get 20 touches, he's going to be a slate breaker.
The injury news in this game dictates almost the whole landscape of the slate.
Yeah. Yeah. Sneakily, though, I'm going to be really heavy on this Raiders offense this week. Sneakily. Because I don't know if people are going to actually go there even seeing that the Patriots are getting smacked around. I think they see Patriots and they don't think about it. They think, oh, Bill Belichick's going to take away your best weapon. He can't take away any weapons. Like, Matthew Judon was out. So the Raiders are sneaky for me this week.
I think even the Rams, what are people going to do? Cooper Kupp, 95% of the snaps off the bat. Puka Nacua didn't come off the field. They're coexisting. Tutu Atwell had 89% of the snaps. Van Jefferson was the odd man out. The Rams have a competent offense. The Rams have the goal this week.
Yeah. I mean, look, but I think we knew this. So to me, the Rams are that team that's kind of hit the reset button on their offense, and they've taken off. And I don't think people still don't realize, wait a minute, the Rams are actually good. They're actually okay. Well, let's say okay. They're not going to win a Super Bowl, but they're not going to get beat up either. They're going to hang in there. And if you give them late in the game down 2 or 3, and you're giving Matt Stafford a 2-minute drill, you're probably in a position to lose that game. Bottom line.
He looks good. If the Rams get hot, they could fight for a wild card in the NFC.
Honestly, I think the Rams could make a wild card. I'm going to give them a wild card this season.
They got a shot, They're gritty. They got good play calling. They got a veteran at quarterback. Pleasant surprise in Puka Nacua, right? Mm-hmm. Bona fide, wide receiver too. No doubt wide receiver too.
Yeah.
And you got his spitting image, Cooper Kupp, vice versa. He's
and McVay is going to scheme this team to score points. Period. They're scoring every week. It's just whether or not they're going to win. They're not going to get shut out. They're not going to look too bad. Not with Cooper Kupp back.
Cooper Kupp looked great. Cooper Kupp looked fantastic.
Yeah. Kupp's back. Puka's there. Tutu Atwell's there. Still got Tyler Higbee. Kyron Williams leads the backfield now. They finally sent Cam Akers packing. This is a competent offense. Now, they're going to need some more defensive pieces down the stretch. Like I'm saying, that's if they make it into the next season and the next season. But their offense right now is fine.
Will we get an ownership break on Kyron Williams? Probably not, but I like the pieces in this offense. He's 6,500. Look at it on DraftKings. Cooper Kupp, 9K. Puka Nacua, 8K. He's priced like a big boy now, so we might see a little sticker shot on Puka.
He should be. I mean, look, when a guy's going to get 10-plus targets a game, have 7, 8, 9 catches, 80, 90 yards, and has some upside to score touchdowns and runs after the catch, he's got to be in that group. He's earned it so far this season.
One more game, and then I'll throw it over to you and start closing out if I missed anything that is imminent. When talking about potential good game environments, Cincinnati is bringing Seattle into town. Are you believing in the Jamar Chase, Joe Burrow revitalization? Because all signs are indicating, I think, that why wouldn't he smash again? Why wouldn't Jamar Chase smash again, especially if T. Higgins doesn't play?
Well, he probably should. I think the Seahawks are going to bring some pressure on Joe Burrow, though. I don't think they're just going to let him sit back there. When I saw the Seahawks play the other night against Daniel Jones, now look, Joe Burrow is much better than Daniel Jones. Don't get me wrong. But what I saw from the Seahawks was disguised blitzes, slot blitzes, cornerback blitzes. I think we're going to see something similar from the Seahawks because, once again, I think they know while Joe Burrow may be better, he's still not 100%. You're going to have to prove to us that you can get this ball out or be mobile. And so for me, I think the Seahawks are going to bring a little heat this week and see if Joe Burrow can withstand it.
Yeah, I mean, Jamar's probably going to be the mega chalk cash game play at that price point, which could open the door for, Puka to be a tournament option. Or dare I say, one more. Man, there's always one more. This Eagles offense against the Jets, who's going to go there? But who has maybe not a higher upside than Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown together?
Well, that's where I wanted to close because I talked earlier. I said I wanted to really talk about this A.J. Brown situation. Now, Luuch, and I meant to have this up before we discussed it, so I'm really sorry. Folks, I am literally pulling up the A.J. Brown game log. And yes, this is simple. You're saying, Chief, you're pulling up simple stuff like the game log. Yes, I'm pulling up the A.J. Brown game log, but it's for a reason. I don't know if you guys remembered, but it was not that long ago. It's week 1 or 2 or 3. I think it's week 2, maybe. Yep, it had to be week 2. Luuch, A.J. Brown is going on a rant. He had 6 targets that game. They won the game 34-28. Don't get me wrong. Had 10 targets week 1 against the Patriots, won 25-20. 7 catches for 79 yards, respectable. But in week 2, he had 4 catches for 29 yards, only 6 targets. A.J. Brown's going nuts. He's furious. He's being a prima donna. He's saying, "What? You guys have to get me the ball. We have to stop this. Like, I'm the guy. I'm the number one guy. I need the ball. Throw me the ball. Get me the ball. What are you doing? Get me the ball." Why am I saying it this way? Why am I repeating he wants the ball? He wanted the ball. He wanted the ball. He wanted the ball. Luuch. Since that game, they've won every game. They've won every game this season, but the production. 14 targets, 9 catches, 131 yards against Tampa Bay. 13 targets, 9 catches, 175 yards, and 2 touchdowns against Washington. And in this game, 8 targets, 6 catches, 127 yards. Longest reception in these games, Luuch, 28, 59, 38. What we're seeing from A.J. Brown now is the big playability. And see, that's the thing, Luuch. We're talking about being a game changer. A.J. Brown is creating big plays for this offense, averaging 14 yards a catch in week 3, 19.4 yards a catch in week 4, 21.2 yards per catch in week 5. If this is a version of A.J. Brown that we're going to get, he's actually probably better than some of the higher upside guys for the price because of the targets, right? When we're playing Chase, we're saying Chase is going to get there on volume alone. 8, 9, 10 catches, 11 catches, high volume stuff. Justin Jefferson is the same thing, high volume stuff. What we're seeing from A.J. Brown right now is big plays. So for me, Luuch, I think A.J. Brown has got to be in the category of this upper echelon group of receiver now, right? Because I feel like last season he wasn't quite there. You know what I'm saying? I feel like he wasn't quite in the Tyreek category, the Justin Jefferson category, the Jamar Chase, the Cooper Kupp category. I feel like he just kind of wasn't the Devontae Adams category. Those guys were kind of in a category of their own. Well, I'm here to tell you, A.J. Brown has shattered the glass, and he is now in that category. And if they're not going to give him to us in that 9K range, A.J. Brown at 8K every week is a must play. He's a must play if he's getting this type of volume, these type of opportunities. He's a must play at this point every single week. And now let me say this, Luuch, and I'll close it out. I am so glad I have A.J. Brown at 1,050 receiving yards on the season. Just keep racking up the 100-plus yard games, big boy, and we'll be done with that one probably by week 9 or 10. Because if I'm not mistaken, maybe not 9 or 10. But right now he's got 35 catches for 51 yards in week 5. He's on pace to clear or pretty much clear his season prop by week 10. Incredible, Luuch. If he stays on this pace, this is fantastic. Bottom line, A.J. Brown is now at these levels. If they're going to keep doing this, he's in the upper echelon group of receivers.
Sometimes you need to look at the numbers, reality check here. Everyone is kind of, if you're knocking Miami on anything, it's the defense, and rightfully so. But in terms of yards per game given up by the defense, the Jets ranked 22nd and the Dolphins ranked 23rd in yards per game defensively. So,
yeah,
I mean, there are paths here. And listen, I don't think people are going to be rushing to play A.J. Brown on this loaded slate against the Jets.
But that's what I'm saying.
I'll tell you, nobody's going to play Devontae Smith after a couple of duds, but he was battling some, he was sick. He was actually sick for a while. And you want to talk about a large field tournament dart, it's Devontae Smith this week. That's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm with you 100%. 110%. Let's say that.
I guess just to circle back to one more real quick one.
Can I say one thing?
Yeah.
One more thing?
Let's go.
Here's why I really want to talk about A.J. Brown. We've got A.J. Brown priced in the Jalen Waddle, Mike Evans, Amon-Ra St. Brown category. He's 7,800. He was 8K this past week. He's getting a bump down because he's facing the Jets. That's insane. Insane. All right, I'm done. Sorry. I'm off the A.J. Brown hype tree.
Yeah, he's also had a pretty nice schedule, too. I mean, we talked about how bad Washington was against receivers. He had Minnesota, which, of course, was his give me the damn ball game. Tampa Bay is not great on the outside. He had New England week 1, who's an abomination. So, and he had the Rams. So, the Jets might be one of his tougher matchups. But at this point, I still think on Monday, Jamar is going to be the mega chalk. And A.J. Brown's a great pivot. I do. I believe that. I'm with you. Yeah. Well, and just to play full circle here, we talked a lot about Atlanta and their issues and whatever they got going on. And they won. Good for them. They won. They won an ugly game. Desmond Ridder still didn't wow anybody. But he got his guys the ball a little bit. And they're playing the Commanders. So, two teams that are teetering around that 500 mark. They kind of feel like they're fake good. But if you go back to, the receivers just smashing offenses, Drake London's still sub 5K. And I know he had a couple of duds a couple of weeks ago, but he's been respectable. He's had at least 11.8 DraftKings points in 3 out of the 5 weeks now. 16 targets the last 2 weeks combined. You can't really ask for more than that. And if Washington's starting these young corners, maybe we finally see a 20-point Drake London game. It's not my favorite, but I feel like I finally have a grasp on some of these things. And one thing I know for sure is the Washington secondary is terrible. Now, it still comes down to Drake London and catchable targets from Desmond Ridder, but he should win on the outside against Washington. That's the last guy I wanted to mention. You got anything else, or do you want to jump into story time and we'll head out of here?
Story time.
All right.
So I want to talk about this because listen, all my story times for the next few weeks are going to be leading up to my wedding to the most beautiful, amazing, sensational woman in the world. And so she had her bridal shower this past weekend. It was a surprise. And it supposedly went off really well. I wasn't there for most of it. They did want me to come by, bring her some flowers, say a few words, and I did that. But one of the things that I want to talk about is they said that she was a big ball of tears at her bridal shower. And I know you guys don't know her, but she's not really like a crier like that. But, she told me some stories some people shared. And I mean, they said it was like a super emotional time, but it was a surprise. She had no clue. She thought she was going out to lunch with one of her friends, and they showed up at the venue, and she was just so excited and so happy. And so what I will share with you guys is something I was watching like a video on marriage and stuff like that. And one of the things that this pastor ended up saying was, he said, hey, don't ever rob your spouse of the blessing of doing something nice for them. And the crux of this was, how often do you think about doing something nice for someone or your significant other, and then you don't do it? So it's just an idea. It never comes to fruition. You say, oh, maybe I'll take her favorite chocolates to work, but you never act on it, right? And so the reason why I'm sharing this for story time is because this doesn't just apply to marriage or anything like that. It applies to just humanity in general. If you think about doing something nice, don't rob the person or that organization of the blessing of you doing something nice for them. Don't let it just be an idea. If you want to go to the local food bank and help out, just make arrangements and go do it, right? If you want to work in a soup kitchen. You want to give back to your community. Don't sit on that idea. Somebody needs that help. Somebody needs that blessing. Just don't let it be an idea. Get out there, act on it, be a good person in the community. That's my story time for this week.
That was really well said. That was pretty much spot on. That brought me back to a memory. 2015, I was I was at a wedding rehearsal. I was in the wedding party, and one of my longtime friends was getting married. The wedding rehearsal was the night of the NFL draft, and I'm a Tennessee Titans fan. We're in Pennsylvania. He's probably one of like 5 other Tennessee Titans fans I've ever met in the great state of Pennsylvania. So we're like walking through this wedding rehearsal, but we're streaming the draft on our phone because it was the Mariota draft. And we were like, we're not missing Marcus Mariota going to Tennessee Titans at the time. Long story short, they're divorced now, but it doesn't always work out. Maybe don't stream the NFL draft at your wedding rehearsal, or if you are, maybe be a little more discreet about it. I guess that's all I have for you. So
yeah,
it is what it is. I would have streamed the draft again if I had the choice. We made the right call. Marcus Mariota, Oregon. Anyway, I guess that's it. I was going to talk about showdown, but we covered a lot of ground. I think in showdown, don't be just when you're telling the story of your lineup is, again, just don't be afraid to be yourself and follow your conviction. And, fraction of a point, such a big difference. And there's so much variance in showdown. Looking back to the 49ers Dallas game yesterday, Kyle Juszczyk, you game log hunting, hasn't done anything, hasn't been involved. It's showdown. Historically, he has done things in offenses. It wasn't out of the realm, and he was a winner. So, you mentioned, and just coming full circle here, you mentioned the week-to-week stuff. The NFL is insane. We talked about the Vegas favorites are about 500 this year. So Vegas knows, but it's still as volatile as ever. So
I'm sorry. You finish. I'm so sorry.
Just if you have conviction and you're confident, there are plenty of smart people in this industry, plenty of people that are good at what they do, including us. The brilliant people at RotoGrinders and Scores and Odds and other platforms too. But don't get sucked into groupthink. It's great to kind of hear great discussion, but not get sucked into it. If you're confident in what you're doing, getting sucked into groupthink, is tough, especially when there's so many brilliant people in this industry. So stick to your guns, man. And, hear people, but don't always listen to them is kind of what I go by.
Yeah. And I think what I was going to add was, on the flip side of that, looking at the glass in a slightly different way, if you've been on dogs, you've been making a lot of money. Like that's the other half of this thing. Like getting some of these dogs at plus money has been amazing. So, don't be afraid to pull the trigger. I missed on mine this week. I took the Texans. They didn't win, but I also took the Jets, who did win this game. So, don't be afraid.
Don't be afraid. Do you have any lock of the betting week before we head out of here?
Well,
early lock, I guess it would be an early lock.
Let's go early. Let's see here. I think for me, and let's see if I can go. I'm going to see if I can go. See if we got anything at plus money that I want to attack first. Since we're on that subject, let's see if we've got anything at plus money, maybe that.
I'll take your plus money pick right now. Let me get my pencil ready.
I'm trying to see what we have. Okay. Let's go here. This isn't quite plus money, but I think it's too much. We've got the Cardinals at the Rams. Cardinals plus 6.5, minus 110.
Okay.
That's on PointsBet. That feels like a good one for me. Let's roll with that one.
starting the notes for the week. Sometimes I go handwritten, so I always go back to what I started looking at the beginning of the week. So I like that call. Like the call a lot. Yeah. That's the Chief Will Priester, Chief Justice 06. I am the Luuch. We hope you liked our podcast this week. We'll be back next week. Enjoy, everybody, and good luck.